Hello, Horizon. My name's Tim Weeks, and it's my pleasure to be with you today. The message I'd like to share with you is called Troubled Hearts, and it's based out of John 14, verse 1, where we read, "Don't let your hearts be troubled. Trust in God, and also trust in me." This is one of the teachings of Jesus that I find most fascinating and also challenging personally. Throughout the Bible, we read verses that say, "Don't let your hearts be troubled. Don't be anxious. Do not worry. Do not be afraid," or fear not, as we read here. In the Christmas narrative, the shepherds are told by the angel, "Fear not." And why? Because it says in the King James Version that they were sore afraid. I like that. It's also translated terribly afraid or terrified. You may or may not know that there are 365 references to the phrase "fear not" in the Bible. And to me, that is an indication that fear is really an ever-present possibility for the believer. In some cases, like the one with the shepherds, God pulls back the curtain between heaven and earth, and the impact is just overwhelming and terrifying to them. Fortunately, that's never happened to me. I doubt that it ever will. I hope it doesn't. In most cases, that phrase "fear not" is used when God's people are facing situations or circumstances that cause them to be afraid, to be anxious, or to be terrified. And that includes us, even in this Advent season. If we think about it, fear is actually a continuum. From left to right. I'll go this way to this way for you, since that's your left to right. It's from uncomfortable to maybe unsettled, to upset or worried, anxious, terrified, even clinical anxiety. Personally, I struggle with all of those, honestly, including clinical depression and anxiety. And I have to be honest with you, I'm so glad that mental health issues are now being more openly acknowledged in the church, big C, and ministry is being extended to those who are suffering and to those who are supporting those who are suffering. But that's an aside. I've found that the further to the right I go on that continuum, or watch somebody that I know who is going through something on that continuum, going to the right, the harder it is to embrace the teaching, this particular teaching of Jesus. Is your heart troubled? Trust in God, trust in me. As a new believer, I was taught that trust is to believe in, to cling to rely on. And as the years passed, I found some trust lessons were learned like in the moment. Kind of like that trust exercise, if you've ever done it, where you have someone stand behind you, you close your eyes and you fall back, and they catch you. And you know in that moment what trust feels like. Sometimes things in life are like that. But other times it takes months, years, to go through a lesson of trust. But either way, ultimately Jesus is and will be our peace. I like to finish by rereading John 14, verse 1, but I'd like to add verses 2 and 3. "Don't let your hearts be troubled. Trust in God, and trust also in me. In my Father's house are many rooms. If it were not so, would I have told you that I go to prepare a place for you? And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and will take you to myself, that where I am, you may be also." And that is peace. Merry Christmas.